All right. Well, we'll go ahead and just give it another moment or so for any remaining students to hop on the call with us. We're also waiting on Eric Manival, who is our sponsor for Beach Fleshman. If we don't hear from him right at the beginning of class this morning, we will hop on over to him for updates later on in our session. All right. There we go. We have Nellie joining us. Perfect. All right. Well, we are already at 9:02. So I want to be mindful of everybody's time and get us started here. So welcome back, everybody. We're going to be starting our second module of the program, which is Advanced Resource Development. We will be hearing from John Scola as our facilitator today. And I have a short introduction. But John, before I get into that, any updates you want to share? Anything from you?
Are you talking about on my bio? No.
Perfect. All right. Well, let me go ahead and read that off, and then we will get moving with class today. If you haven't already, a copy of today's slides are out in Canvas, so please feel free to grab a copy of those and follow along with our class session. So John Scola has nearly 40 years of nonprofit leadership experience and is highly respected for his exceptional abilities and integrity. He has a solid track record of success working with a wide spectrum of nonprofit agencies, including foundations, universities, healthcare, social service, faith-based, and education organizations. Known as a leader who drives results with his head and his heart, his breadth of experience includes organizational development, capital campaigns, international fundraising, major gifts, corporate and foundation relations, as well as annual giving. In addition, he has extensive volunteer leadership training and management experience and has worked with a variety of organizations in the areas of board and staff development, as well as strategic planning. John graduated with a BA in economics from the University of Dallas, where he later served on their board of trustees. He is a member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals and has earned a designation as a Certified Fundraising Executive, or CFRE, as well as Master Teacher through the Faculty Training Academy of the AFP. He was also the recipient of the AFP's Greater Arizona Chapter Outstanding Executive Award in 2002. And with that, it's my pleasure to hand things over to John for this morning to kick off our session. So John, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. You know what, Cassandra, next time when you ask me, should I update the bio, I will. First, we're going to cut it back a lot, okay? I got tired listening to that. I'm sorry, you guys, that was unnecessary. I love the smiles this morning. Thank you for that. I will encourage you, if you're able, if you're comfortable, it really does mean a lot if we can see one another. So if you're okay turning your cameras on, if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate that. We don't get to meet in person. This course, I've been teaching it for a few years, and we used to do it in person, and I loved it. I feel like I've adjusted to the virtual environment, haven't we all? I want to make the most of it. And so this time that we have is for you. It's really to help you maximize your experience in the in this portion of your nonprofit certificate program. It will be interactive. I am not hesitant to call on people. So now I'm not sure how to read the nonverbals here. Is everyone else doing what I'm doing? I have the whole thing. I have the whole screen, so I can see all of you. You doing that? Okay. I urge you to use all the tools available. So your reaction buttons, chat, you can talk behind my back. I know you can do that. It's like passing a note. We used to stop people from doing it. Now we have devices that allow it. So pass notes, if you will. Cassandra is going to be helping me a lot today. So if you put something in the chat and I don't notice it, it can be a little challenging to facilitate a conversation and also notice all the great comments. Cassandra's going to jump in and interrupt me, or hit that unmute button and say what you have to say. I don't mind being interrupted. In fact, I don't want to hear my voice for 3 hours. Let's see, what other ground rules do we have? That's probably it. I will tell you that I try to keep track of who's on the call. It seems my roster is slightly dated, so I might need your help in making sure I know you're here. I think I've got everyone who is here recorded. That's important. And I will ask for your forgiveness in advance if I mispronounce your name or if I get a pronoun wrong. It's just, I'm working on it. Okay. So give me a little grace if you don't mind, and to one another as well. Any questions before we move along? I just want to hear someone else's voice. Someone say something. That's just.
No questions.
Thank you. All right. That was Aaron. Aaron, I love it. Thank you for that. Cassandra warned me there are some of you who I might have to work harder to get you to participate, and some that I'll have to subdue. We'll work on that too. I got you. You know who you are, okay? But I don't know who you are. And what I'd like to do is spend a little time with getting to know you, getting you all to know one another better. So what we're going to do is we're going to do, you won't know this because you don't see my screen, right? We're going to go around and say hi to one another. And I'd like to do it this way. Please, give us your name, and then we hopefully get the pronunciation just right. Tell us, what is your primary, how do I say, responsibility? I don't want to assume you're all working for an organization. If you are, tell us about it, or at least tell us the name of it. We don't have that much time. And then I would like you to share something about yourself that you don't believe anyone else on this call would know about. So I want to give you a chance to think about that. And I'll try to give you a little heads up as to who's coming up in the lineup. So what we'll do to start is, Brett, you appear on my screen in the first position. So Brett, in a moment, I'll just ask you to follow through as I requested. And then I've got Ashley next to you. So Ashley, you'll be on deck and we'll follow through that way, okay? So Brett, if you're ready to go, it's name, it's affiliation, let's call it that, and then something about yourself, please.
Yes, so Brett Steele, current affiliation is McCain Institute, but doing this course so we can leave. And something about myself, I did mediation training as a kid, and it informs everything I do in managing teams and business.
Now, is that the most interesting thing about yourself that we don't know? I think I'd like to hear something wacky. I want to hear that you performed in the Barnum and Bailey Circus when you were younger. That's what I'm looking for here. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear about that, you guys. I want the off the
I didn't. So there's not a lot wacky, but I have sang in 9 countries and 12 languages.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. There you go. Right. Nicely done. Okay, Ashley, and I'm sorry I missed that we have 2 Ashleys. If you spell your names differently, that threw me off too. But Ashley Oakley is going to be next. Please say hi, and then I've got, I'll pronounce it wrong. You can correct me. Flinan. Oh, look, she nodded. I got it. Okay, good.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley, and my job is with UMOM, New Day Centers, homeless shelter for families, and I handle all of our foundation and corporate grants and relationships, so in philanthropy. And I guess I would say something interesting is that even though I'm in philanthropy now, I actually have a doctorate in classical piano and have performed all over the world.
Wow. One of the things you'll all find yourself doing here, but Ashley, I want to ask you 100 follow-up questions, and I'm going to resist. That's okay. But UMOM is a partner with Boys and Girls Clubs, as you know, and so it's kind of this is one of the things I want to invite all of you to do is think about what you might, how you might connect with one another. So Ashley, welcome. Thank you for being here and for your introduction. So Flannan, you are up, and Antonia, if you could be on deck, please.
Very good. Flannan Janice, I'm the Executive Director for Rainbow Housing Assistance Corporation, and we're a not-for-profit that is a general partner in the development and preservation of affordable housing and the empowerment of social and economic change in the communities we serve. And unique about me, there's a lot of crazy that goes on behind the scenes, but I raise donkeys, goats, and chickens. And that's probably the most unique thing about me right now in my life is my little farm.
Okay, I need to know more about that too. See, this is donkeys, goats, chickens. Okay, and is that it? Just donkeys, goats, chickens, and
Horses.
Go on. There's more. I know there's more.
Children are grown and raised, so I've moved animals.
But you mentioned them after the livestock, which is really interesting. Okay. We're 4 people into the conversation. I can already see this is going to be a great day. Thank you, Flannan. And then Antonia, you're here. And I see Caitlin. I think I only have one Caitlin. So that's good. All right. So if you be on deck, Caitlin. Antonia, welcome.
Thank you. My name's Antonia, and I am with the Hajoni Foundation. We're a nonprofit in Northern Arizona. We serve adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, group homes, day program, employment services. I really had to think about this. I was getting a little nervous that I was going to be called soon, but something a little interesting about me. I don't know if anyone remembers Guitar Hero. Okay, so I once competed in a competition at my high school and beat the best of the best. And I used to play on expert and beat the first 3 games. So yeah, I'm actually pretty proud of that. I had t-shirts and everything. So I was a major fan. I recently found out that there's someone who now is younger than I, that's kind of off the shelves, and it's a little more vintage now. So you can't just go and buy it at the store because I want to buy it and start playing again. So I have to start looking at like resale shops and stuff. So yeah, that was interesting.
All right. So I'll tell you what, I want to open this up to everyone. I don't want to be the only one doing follow-up questions, but I'm taking this one and then I'm turning it over to you guys to do follow-up. Antonia, I'm not going to ask your age. I just know you're younger than me, and I want to know what your favorite song was that you played on Guitar Hero.
Cliffs of Dover.
By? Who's that by?
I can't remember. I don't know if anyone wants to jump in on that, but it has added, I will say this, my only knowledge of rock songs from the past, primarily, I mean, I hate to say, are from Guitar Hero. So, but Cliffs of Dover, I can't recall the band who did that, but it's a really, really neat song. And it was also very difficult to play.
Yeah, it's troubling me a bit because I wanted you to tell me it was a Guns N' Roses or an AC/DC song because that's like my music. And
yeah.
Here you're probably naming something that's even more current than that, and you're killing me here. So that's all right. We got it. Anyone know Cliffs of Dover? Who's that by? Anybody?
Well, we can consult
Eric
Google.
Johnson.
Google told me Eric Johnson.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm feeling old. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, and one last thing I wanted to say, it does not mean I'm good at real guitar playing. That's a misconception. So anyway, it's a video game.
We won't ask for a performance in 2 weeks when we get together again. Thank you.
Okay.
All righty. Well, Caitlin, you are in the house, and I see Kimberly next on my dial. So if you could be ready for the next one, go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Caitlin Sogging, and I work for Child Crisis Arizona. So I've been with them for about 4 years and then worked in Boys and Girls Clubs for many years prior to that. Trying to think of a crazy or unknown fact is a bit of a struggle. I don't know if I have any really crazy. I don't necessarily like being the center of attention. I'm not usually one. out in front. But as a child, I had an idea and I did some pageants, even though I, again, don't like being center of attention. So there's my fun fact.
Can you, I'm inviting everyone to participate in following up, but you mentioned Boys and Girls Club, so naturally I'm curious, where did you work and what did you do there?
So I was a branch director for Boys and Girls Club Greater Scottsdale up in North Phoenix, so the Vestar branch. From the day that it opened until when did I leave? 2019. And then I also worked in Boys and Girls Clubs in Missouri and Utah before I came to Arizona.
Thank you. That's great. Who else has a question? And you can use the chat if you want, but please go ahead and unmute and just talk to each other. Go for it. I thought I saw a question for you.
All right, Caitlin, what was your talent in the pageant?
Dance. I danced for many years too.
Do you still dance in the kitchen at least?
I have kids and my little daughter loves to dance, so it happens from time to time.
Very good.
Welcome, Caitlin. Nice to have you here. Kimberly, you're up, and then Matt, if you would be on deck for us.
Good morning. My name is Kim. You can call me Kim Kirshner. I am the executive director for the Institute for Better Education here in Arizona, which is a school tuition organization, tax credit organization. But I've also recently launched the IBE Foundation, which I'm also the director of, and that's the one I'm really excited about learning everything I can today and the next class from you, John. And as far as something unique, I'm a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo, and I used to teach it. So that's as high as I'll ever go is 3rd degree, but I was able to travel to Korea and train with some of the Olympic junior. It was an amazing opportunity for myself and my whole family. We were all involved. So it was pretty a cool family thing.
So have you ever had to use it?
Well, you know what? One of the basic tenets of Taekwondo and any martial arts is to not have to use it, to be quite honest. And it's amazing how you can handle situations with just your voice. And so I've never had to use it to get home safely, which is what basically we look at it for. But myself and my daughter and my whole family, but my daughter specifically and myself, we walk differently, I think. And so I think people don't look at us as a target, maybe, because you just walk differently when you have some skills.
Love that.
Does it teach you to, if you had to, would that be a good, I mean, does Taekwondo prepare you in case you had to like fight off like a perp or something?
Nah, absolutely. It's Taekwondo is the way of the hands and the feet. And so it's all about both. And so it is, even though it's been a few years since I've been a black belt sparring and all the tournaments we used to do and things like that, I still feel confident in it. So yeah, I think it's great too for kids. If anybody has kids, to perseverance, respect. There's a lot of things that go in martial arts.
Awesome.
That's great. Thank you, Kimberly. And for some reason, I feel better about being virtual today. So if I do anything.
Yes.
Okay, Matt, you are up, and then Aaron, you're on deck.
Good morning, everybody. Matt Johnson from the Arizona Humane Society. I've been there for about 5 years. Interesting thing about myself, I've been up since 3 a.m. this morning. We went to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. So that's where I'm calling in from the hotel room in Albuquerque for you today, and hopefully not too sleepy.
That is a challenge to all of us to keep Matt interested, engaged, and awake. Right?
Here.
Matt, that's like, I've been and done that. Would you say that it's something everyone should add to their bucket list?
Oh, it's totally worth it. It was great this morning. Yeah. It was amazing how that many huge balloons can take off in the same small field. And you're just surrounded by them. I mean, it's really, really cool. Yeah.
I first heard about that for the first time, incidentally, last year. One of the persons I worked with took her kids there. Otherwise, I'd never heard of it before.
It was about 37 degrees this morning. So if you're from Phoenix, you definitely need to bundle up. It was cold.
I'm in flag, so we're already there.
Okay.
Welcome, Matt. Nice to have you here. I know your colleague, Lauren, Martich, I'm sure I'm pronouncing
Martich,
it
yeah.
wrong. Martich, yeah,
Sure.
she's great. She's great. You get to work with her?
Yes,
Super. Tell her I said hi.
I will do that.
Good morning, Aaron. I want to make sure I pronounced that right in case there was an Aaron on the call. You probably get that every once in a while, don't you? And then Denise, you will be on deck, please. Welcome, Aaron.
Morning, everybody. My name is Aaron Sorensen. I work for Crossroads. We are a substance abuse treatment facility. I've been there for 3 years. Interesting fact about me is I'm an obsessive collector and fan of horror. I actually overly obsessive. I have it tattooed all over me. So I have Jack Nicholson from The Shining. So I'm a huge horror fan. That's my hobby.
Okay, who wants to take that one? Flynn Ann, hold yourself back here. I know you got something. Someone else throw a Lovecraft question at him or something. This would be great.
I feel like this is your season then.
Yes, it is.
You know, all of the like on Hulu, it's like Huluween, and Netflix is all of the. So what's your favorite film then?
I would say it would be The Shining or Silence of the Lambs. More horror thriller, but those are some of my psychological thrillers are my jam.
Okay. So last night I was watching Megadon 2, which
Yeah,
not it's a great film by any means. It was kind of forced, but I was going
sure.
with it.
My son loves that film, and I can't stand it.
Yeah, it's so bad.
So, Aaron, normally I wouldn't do this, but I have to with you now. I want you to know the first job I ever had, first activity I ever did in fundraising was for the March of Dimes in Dallas. And it was to build and manage a haunted house that raised money. So it formed me as a person and also scarred me for life at the same time.
Sure.
So we can talk about that. And yeah, I think I was surrounded by volunteers with your DNA.
And God bless my wife. She's not like a horror fan, but like that's all we watch. She always lets me control the TV. You know, it's just like everywhere in our house. So
Love it. That's great. Thanks for being with us. It's good to have you here. So Denise, and then Dana, if you would be next.
Good morning, buenos dias. My name is Denise Lay, and I am the executive director for a nonprofit called Homicide Survivors. We assist families and friends of murder victims here in Southern Arizona. A fun fact about me, it's, oh my gosh, everyone has been sharing really cool stuff and I feel a lot of pressure. But like the one thing that came to mind was about 16 years ago. If you guys remember the TV show, The First 48, that they film in Dallas, some episodes in Tucson. I've been in the victim services field for a long time. I was in a couple of episodes of The First 48. So that's the best that I could come up with.
Wow. What was your role? Like, were you interviewed or like just a
some interviews, but mostly like behind the scenes doing things with survivors, victims, as a victim advocate and just being filmed. Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I recently met a guy who does the cleanup, and I never heard of that role either. I think victim services is on you. But yeah, it was pretty intense. But at the same time, you know, what he enjoyed about it is being there for the family and having them come home to like not have to do that themselves. But yeah, he was a part of the cleaning crew.
Yeah, it's a huge misconception that the police take care of that.
That's literally the first thing he said.
Yeah, it's the crime scene cleanup people, they are a blessing, but you have to be of like a particular DNA to deal with such things. But yeah, we work with a few companies and they're absolutely great.
Denise, do you work with victims of mass casualty attacks as well?
Yes,
Or-
yes.
Okay. You and I should talk about that.
Yeah.
I do a lot of work with terrorism survivors.
We'll have to connect then.
Thank you, Denise. That's great stuff. It is more interesting than you realize to hear about you. So let me validate that for you. Dana, welcome. And Chai, I don't see you, but I see you're here. So if you could be on deck.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dana Howarth. I'm the Deputy Director of the New Mexico Caregivers Coalition. We're a small nonprofit located in Bernalillo, New Mexico, which is right outside Albuquerque. I actually left. I'm in California this morning, so me and Matt switched switched locations. Normally, I'm seeing the balloons this morning. But the New Mexico Caregivers Coalition, we're a small nonprofit. We offer training and resources to family caregivers and paid care workers, so home health aides, personal care attendants, etc. For my little fact about me is I'm a member, an air member of the San Antonio de las Huertas land grant in Placitas, New Mexico. It was a land grant that was granted, 21 families were granted land from the King of Spain back in 1775. So my family dates back to that moment when they started, one of the founding families of Placitas in the land grant near the Sandia Mountains in New Mexico.
That's incredible. Congratulations on that. What a legacy.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dana?
Was that information just passed down in your family to you, or did you guys do one of the like, how did that information, is it just told it within your family and passed in generations?
Yeah, so the land grant itself is still active. So every a new coming generation has an opportunity to join and be an active member in the land grant. It's still moved, we still have a board of directors. I actually spent 2 years on the board of directors for the land grant. Currently just a regular member now that does on the fundraising committee and membership committee, actually reviewing ancestry trees for incoming new members that want to join.
Wow, that's so cool. What a good piece of history too.
Yeah.
Welcome again, Dana. Thank you. And then
Thank you.
Chai, you're here. Welcome. And Nellie, you could be next.
Good morning. It's Chi.
Why I know, you know what? Okay, I apologize because you were in another course that I taught, weren't you?
Yes,
okay.
It's Chi. Normally it's Chi, but well, I guess we've gotten to that age where no one remembers the restaurant called Chi-Chi's way back when. But if you do.
Hey, we're lucky if they remember Guitar Hero. It's okay.
So I am the finance director. I work for Senior Services of Snohomish County. And we provide transportation services, minor home repair, mental health services, Meals on Wheels delivery, congregate meal service, and care coordination. And let's see, a fun fact about me. Well, right now I am currently hiding from my CEO in the warehouse. So, because I want to work from home today. And if he sees me, then I'm stuck in the office. So I'm hiding till he goes into his meeting, and then I'm going to head out the door because he sits right at the front door. So there you go.
Chi-Chi, you just made us all accomplices to your crime. You just...
It's true.
Because
I don't have to be in the office.
liability issue here for us or for ASU. I want to be careful that we have. Okay, well, your secret's safe with us. Everybody, raise your hand. Take the pledge.
Yes. Yes, I only came in because I needed to get into the safe and give out some car vehicle titles. So now I'm stuck here. I have to wait for him to,
I really don't like to
I'm
to,
so
to
my fun
qualify
fact.
our comments, but I think you've made the most interesting off the wall. Yeah, that's the most. I mean, we've got
Okay, good. I'm so
Taekwondo,
sorry,
we've
guys.
got livestock, we've got languages being spoke, but you're literally sneaking into class. I don't think I've ever had that before.
That's how dedicated I am. There you go.
I feel you. Okay, well, if you do emerge and you're able to turn your camera on and let everyone see your face, that's great too. But don't worry about it now. Oh wow. Okay, Nellie, you are next on my screen. Welcome, and try to follow that one.
There's no ways. You all are so much interesting than I am. But I'll do my best. I'm just bringing in my authenticity here. So thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And yeah, so my name is Nellie, and I am the newly hired executive director for the Arizona Caregiver Coalition. Dana, I'd love to get in contact with you because we have lots to share. But for the most part, our organization is a nonprofit that offers respite services, respite voucher services to unpaid family caregivers. And something interesting about me or unique is I took a bridal consultant course at a time when it was print-based, and it was at a time where educational obtainment was not popular to be taken on online or print-based at all. You know what I mean when I say print-based, right? Where they send you the course materials by mail, and then you read the materials and you fill out the quizzes, and then you send it back. And then it was like, even before, it was like around the time of AOL. Not a lot of people remember it's AOL. So I'm not dating, yeah, I am dating myself. Okay, fine. So I took the bridal course, bridal consultant course, and to this day, I still have the materials. I think that's a little wacky. But guess what? I was at that time, while I was probably embarrassed at that time, I took it, I completed, I was happy about it. I was today, 2023, ahead of my time, because guess what? Things are online now, and there are still print-based education obtainments out there. So, booyaka.
You got it. No, I hear you.
Huh?
Go ahead. I think someone had a question or a comment for you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's all I have.
Well, Nellie, this is Kim, and I just want to tell you that I also have an AOL. I have an AOL account still, so we're right there, my friend.
I still have that account, and they try to charge me, girl. They try to charge me. I was like, I'm not paying for that. Now it's free, and I have like over maybe this is another wacky thing about my AOL account. I probably have over 80,000 emails saved, stored. I don't know how AOL does it, but I have emails from way back when. Is that a wacky thing?
I'm right there with you.
There we go. There you go, Kim.
Yep.
Just go watch You've Got Mail after this class, and you'll realize that you're not as far off as you think. So good stuff. Thank you, Nellie. Lance, I hope you got my, go ahead. Someone else had a thought. I'm sorry if I stepped on you. Okay. Lance, I hope you got my chat request that you be next, and then our other Ashley will be after, please.
Sure. My name is Lance. I'm the director of philanthropy down here in Tucson, Arizona. I guess one thing you wouldn't know about me, being a Tucson native, I was born with blonde hair and blue eyes. It's just I never wore sunscreen over the last few years, and just had an effect. I'm just doing that to get everybody's reaction to see how you're going to act about that or react on it. But in all honesty,
you're only getting a reaction from the people with their cameras on, and we're all just like,
only the people with sense of humor will get that. But the funniest thing, and this is a great segue, I had another thing planned that I was going to say about myself, but I was a number 17 employee with AOL. If you look over my shoulder, you'll see my AOL plaque right there.
What?
Yep, I was a number 17. When I started working with AOL, nobody knew who AOL was. There were two companies called CompuServe and Prodigy, but we decided we started mailing out those like CD-ROM discs. It shot our projections off the charts. and it was a major success. But that is so ironic you guys said that, and my plaque is literally right there.
It's so
Wow, what a cool
still with you.
time.
Yeah,
AOL had the chat, right? One of the
we
first
did.
ones.
We were the
I
first
remember
chat
AOL
one.
actually.
Yeah.
I had dial-up. Yeah.
So it's pretty ironic.
That's cool. So what was the other thing you were gonna say?
Oh, that I've done some horrible movies with Leonardo DiCaprio and Russell Crowe, Mario Van Peebles back in the day.
What?
Yeah, called The Quick and the Dead, and the other one with Mario Van Peebles was called Posse.
Wow.
All right, Aaron. Gotta look those up.
Lance, you said director of philanthropy. I don't know if I caught the organization you're with. I'm sorry.
Sure, for Pima Community College.
Ah, gotcha. Thank you. All right. Well, we're cruising. Thank you, Lance. And now, Ashley, I'm not going to call you Ashley 2, just Ashley, right? But how about we do Ashley O and Ashley L? How's that? And then Karen, I think you would be next, please.
Hi, good morning. Ashley Loa. I am the executive director at Seeds of Peace. We're in Hawaii. I guess one thing about me is I love to build Lego sets, and I am part of my local Lego club, and I got to go to the Lego house last year. So yeah.
What's the Lego house? Yeah, what's a Lego house?
So Lego was founded by a Danish family, and in Denmark there is a Lego house where it has pretty much all things Lego, and there's basically like this little town that the Lego group pretty like built around the Lego house, and it was pretty awesome.
Have you been to Legoland in California?
I have, but I really like the one in Denmark.
Yeah, I bet.
What's the biggest piece you've done?
So I've done kind of a lot of the bigger ones, like the Harry Potter castle, the Disney castle, the Harry Potter train. But my favorite one is the Stranger Things set, because you can like flip it upside down. That was like a really unexpected one that I loved. And I love the architecture sets. Oh, Lance, I don't know if you still have some of your sets from 1994, but I bet those are worth a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legos all over your house?
Do I have Lego all over my house?
Yeah.
I do, all over the place. And so it's crazy when my friends, well, my kids know not to touch my Lego, but right. Friends' kids come over, like it's so crazy having to tell them, don't play with my toys. Like,
yeah, they're not your toys.
Right.
Great to have you here, Ashley. Thank you. Karen, we'll invite you into the conversation, and then Abel, if you could be next, that'd be great.
Good morning. My name is Karem Garcia, and Awesome Stranger Things is one of my favorite shows, and big fan of Harry Potter too. I'm from Venezuela. I work at Crossroads. I'm the Chief Quality Officer at Crossroads. We are an organization dedicated to the treatment of substance abuse disorders. We have around 400 beds in Maricopa County and 3 outpatient locations and the whole continuum. Fun fact about me, I'm from another country. I love traveling and seeing things. And my favorite expedition was down to the Amazon to hang out with the Yanomamis and also hike up to the Salto Ángel, one of the tallest waterfalls down in the Amazon where I'm from. That's about it.
That's pretty cool. And I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name. I just noticed it's an M, not an N at the end. And it sounds like the accent is on the second syllable. Is that right, Karem?
It's Karem, and I get that a lot. I get Kareem, Karem, and all kinds of different things.
We'll do our best to honor the pronunciation, the correct one. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Karem? We can't keep up with you. That's the problem. Okay. All right. I've got Abel, and then I see Dave, if you would be after, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Abel Classe. I'm the Assistant Director of Clinical Operations with the Apache Behavior Health Services on the Fort Apache Indian Reservation in Northern Arizona. Fun fact about me, my staff and coworkers don't really like to play games with me because I have a great poker face. This stays the same regardless of if I'm happy, mad, sad. Even my wife and kids do not like it because I don't have a tell. And people always tell me that they can't read me. And my response is, I'm not a book that can't be read. So, yeah, nothing ever really changes on my facial expression. So that's a big plus for me because as a boss, if somebody tells me something, it's best not to have a reaction because they don't know what you're doing or thinking, because it just keeps everyone in suspense. My staff really don't like talking to me or coming to me about big things because I won't give them anything facially. So thanks.
Abel, do you like to play poker?
Yeah, yes, I do. But I kind of get annoyed by other people's reactions and how they can be though. So when it comes to that, my people skills are kind of limited because sometimes they can be a little too extra.
So here I opened the course by saying I wanted to see you so I could get nonverbals, and here you are telling me forget it. We're not going to get that from me.
Pretty much, but I will laugh. Like you'll see me, and laughter is my biggest cue. Like other than that, it stays the same. So yeah, it's a fun tool for me to have.
Okay, I'd like someone to suggest how we can weaponize this or use it to our advantage so far. This is an interesting skill. Go ahead. Who's got an idea?
Well, I was going to say it does sound like a challenge.
So I've been in a group pairing with him. I don't think I've seen him laugh unless he just doesn't think I'm funny. And I think I'm pretty funny. See?
I'm laughing on the inside, Chi.
There you go.
Got me there.
Well, I think we have a challenge before us. We'll see if we can accomplish that in the next hour and a half or in 2 weeks when we can have a chance to plan our assault on your facial expression. Setting lofty goals for ourselves. Dave, welcome.
Hey, good morning. My name is David Leos. I'm with Crossroads. I'm the Director of Operations. Some kind of cool things that I've been able to do is being in the Army a while. I got to spend 4 years up there in good old Alaska, which was great. Got to see a lot of pretty cool things back in the day. That was back in the early 80s, which was when there wasn't when the population was pretty manageable up there. And then from there, Germany for about another 4 years, which was great. Traveling around the world, you get to see a lot of cool things. But I think one of the coolest was I got to go inside the pyramids when I was in Egypt. Got to walk around down there, see the mummies and whatnot, which was pretty cool. But traveling around and getting to seeing the world was great. But I think some of the coolest things though I've done is yesterday I celebrated my 11 years of sobriety, which is great. It took a long time coming, and what, got 2 people here today that were a big part of that. So, it took a lot of people to get me to this point, and I'm very, very thankful. Another really cool thing was I actually signed in to the Zoom with limited assistance today. That's even the best, right? That's really not
Dave, really proud of you, Dave.
Right.
Yeah,
Usually
Dave.
I got a team of people in here trying to get me on.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Yes, congratulations. That's awesome.
And yesterday, which was cool about my sobriety date, was it just wound up where we had an inspection at one of the sites where I actually got clean and sober at. And one of the first stops we stopped in that he inspected was the actual room that I checked into. So it was kind of a full circle type thing, and it was pretty cool. But you know what, and that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Dave, I appreciate you being transparent with us, being genuine and authentic, and glad you're here. Glad you survived the trauma of logging in.
Right.
Sounds like that might have been an easier task than some of the other things you've gone through.
Right. I wish I was in a warehouse right now, to tell you the truth. Right.
Hiding from the boss, perhaps. I don't know, Chi-Chi. We're waiting for your camera to come on. This will be exciting when we see it. Anyone else for Dave, please?
Don't let Dave fool you. He's got many wacky talents and hobbies, and he's a man of many weird facts.
Right, right.
Ask him how he acquired a horse when he was younger.
No. Hey, that situation was prior to the 11 years clean and sober. Okay. Yeah.
There might be one for the break. We'll leave that for one of our timeouts. You guys are really great about this. Thank you. And you might be asking yourself, we're about 50 minutes into this conversation, and why did we do that? This is a fundraising class. Why did we just spend 50 minutes going around the horn as we did?
Development is all about relationship building.
You must have read the first module. It looks. Thank you, Brett. Yeah, I mean the point. Fundraising is about relationships, and to be effective in fundraising on some level, it's not going to be in Zoom classes necessarily, but to be effective as a fundraiser, you need to be able to manage and care for different relationships. So let's see how we did. What I'd like to do, I'm going to ask you to do this on your own. Just unmute and speak what you have to say. I'd like you to make a connection. Some of you did this already. Pick a new one. Make a connection with someone else in the course. And Cassandra, I didn't invite you in to do your thing. I should have thought of that. And actually, I didn't do mine either. So I don't know if you can connect with me yet. But Cassandra, would you mind doing that? I don't get to do this to you. You don't always facilitate, but why don't you participate with us here? I'd love to have you in it. You okay with that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
So,
great.
welcome everybody. I'm Cassandra Coburn. I'm a project coordinator with the Lodestar Center for Philanthropy and Nonprofit Innovation, and I'm the program administrator over the Executive Leadership Program. So you will be seeing lots and lots of me throughout all of these Zoom sessions. I think probably one, maybe not a wacky fact about me, but I'm a big fan of puzzles, crosswords, and things like that. So late last night, I was playing this app on my iPad that would time me for how quickly I could complete a word search. So definitely not wacky, but it's an interesting little factoid about me. And John, did I miss anything?
I'll let them ask you any questions. Go for it.
All right.
What is the largest puzzle you've done? Like piece count, piece on the puzzle.
Probably 1,500, and it took me about 3 days, probably 3 to 4 hours a day. And I typically will frame my puzzles after I complete them, if it's an especially large one. Yeah.
Do you play Wordle?
I don't. I'm really trying to get into Wordle, but I have to try it out. Yeah.
I just started playing that.
Spelling bee is great too.
Oh, great. Thanks for the recommendations. Yeah. All right, John, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, great. Well, I've got the ball. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is, again, just randomly, just unmute and think about something where you can connect with someone else on this call. So if you're well, Flynn Ann had to leave. So if one of the things you were thinking of is that you raise livestock, she's not here to talk to about that. So try something else. Who's up?
I was able to connect with Kim a little bit. I mean, I'm not a black belt, but I've recently been over the last few months doing jujitsu, and I got my kids involved in it, my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old, and they go 3 times a week, and it's an awesome experience. So thanks for sharing.
Absolutely, Aaron. And it's taught my children, again, respect for themselves, respect for elders, respect for teachers, respect for humanity, basically, as well as many other things. And if it also helped them in any kind of athletic activity they've ever done their whole lives. So I highly recommended. But using it, finding the right instructor is incredibly important, because it is all about getting home safely and not using it at any other time in your life. It's we're taught to not be physical unless we have to. So I'm glad to hear that. That's glad to hear that. And Cassandra, I just want to say to you that I am a huge puzzle fan, and I absolutely I only get to do them when we have a little cabin hideaway in Colorado, and when we go there, I bring puzzles, because that's what I'll do. I'll sit there for 6 hours a day, and I love to do puzzles. I don't frame them. I take pictures of them. I have done a 2,000 piece one before, and it took me a little bit of time, and my husband's built me a big board that I can move it from room to room if I need to, but I love to do puzzles also.
I want to share, I really connected with Dave's story and the transparency with your sobriety. That is near and dear to my heart as well. And I just find, generally speaking, I think when you know, people find their recovery, it's just something about the character of that person that always pretty easily stands out to me. Yeah, I have some very close, you know, family who have also celebrated over 10 years of sobriety, and it's such a gift. You know, I can appreciate now in adulthood, you know, the journey that they had to go through with that. And so I have a kind of a different standing with it, but I really connected to that because I just love a great, you know, a great story of recovery and commitment to that, because it's definitely not easy. And then just generally speaking, I always tend to, with Denise and Ashley, I have really free-flowing conversations with them. It's just something about kind of their presence and you know, and just their posture when we've had chats, you know, in our previous breakouts. So that's kind of just generally making connections there.
Thank you.
I would say that I kind of connected with Aaron because I like horror movies as well, and mainly from like the 80s and 90s. Some of the newer stuff now is not as interesting. Just back in the 80s and 90s, it was just more creative. And I can't really watch them at home because my wife won't let me, and my kids don't really connect with any of the names that I bring up too. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm glad I have one person that could connect. Usually it's very few. The horror stuff.
I like to go. I'm hoping, and I can't turn my camera on, John, because my laptop doesn't have that function. It's probably broken. You know, I have those high-end type of thing, but it breaks really quickly. But I aspire to connect with each and every one of you by the end of this course. But throughout this course so far, I connected with Kim, Fred, Ashley, Lance, Dana, and Lance. Did I say Lance? Yeah. And Lance. And my list just keeps growing.
Nice. Let's take one more. Just one more would be great.
I was gonna say I also connected to Aaron, but not because of the horror, because I absolutely hate horror and I'm a total scaredy cat. But I do find tattoos very cool and fun, and I like kind of looking at people's tattoo artwork. So I had connected on that aspect.
Thank you. It's like a therapy.
So back to the main point. It is about fundraising is about relationships. What I would hope for all of you is that maybe you wouldn't have a direct connection. You know, maybe you hate horror movies, or maybe you know, I keep going back to the livestock thing because I'm a city guy, so that just blows my mind to spend time around that close to animals like that. Anyway, it's not necessarily that you have a direct connection. It's, can you have a conversation? Can you relate to? Can you connect on some level? And maybe the connection is that you're curious and you just want to learn more, because that is a validating thing. And I bring that up because it's a very effective tool for those of us in fund development. I've learned a lot about people just by talking to them and finding out about things I'll probably never do. And that's okay. I mean, or they've introduced me to something that I would love to do. Because of either the conversation, the relationship that we've established. And so I would just, I've watched you all are really good at it naturally, certainly to varying degrees, but you've demonstrated it already. And I wanted to start the conversation with that point, because you're immersed in the academic exercise. I mean, when you're working on this course on your own and through the chat, that's great. It doesn't make sense to me to have a fundraising course that doesn't have an interpersonal component. And it's one of the reasons why it was introduced into this module way back, several years ago. Any other comments on that? Otherwise, I want to move forward. So one of the things I haven't been able to glean yet, and so I'm going to put this out as a question, and I'll ask you all to respond in the chat. Don't look ahead, it's in the deck, but what I'd like you to do is help me understand what your comfort level is with the act of fundraising. Some of you are clearly that's your job, so I'm expecting you'll have a high comfort level, but some of you it's maybe not, or it's just a part of your job, or it's something you never even thought about doing. I need to take the temperature of the group right now, if you don't mind. So what I'd like you to do is, I'll give you the cues here. I'd like you to score your comfort level with fundraising. Don't do it yet. On a 5 being high, you're very comfortable, 1 being low, but let me make it even more fun for you. If you were to give yourself a 5, that would mean it's probably the thing you most love doing about your work, or volunteer work for that matter. It's something you're absolutely excited about. To give yourself a 4 would mean, you know what, you don't get to do it that much, but you like it when you do it. It's kind of cool. 3 would be you're sort of ambivalent. You'll do it when you have to. It's not your favorite thing, but yeah, you'll do it. 2 would be sort of like, for me, it would be like eating broccoli. Not a fan. It's a vegetable item. So think of it as a vegetable you don't like, or a food you don't care for, but you know it's good for you, so you've got to eat it. And let's keep with a desert theme here. 1 would be you'd rather pet a rattlesnake than do fundraising. So if you go ahead and throw in the chat, let's just see how the numbers pop up. 5 being you love it, and 1 being you're petting desert animals. Oh, there you go. Got it. Nellie, thanks for that note.
You're welcome.
All right, so
it was excellent.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully this will resonate. So Nellie was just reminding me she was at a workshop I did at Ottawa University earlier this week. This will not be a repeat, Nellie. I promise you. It's all new stuff. This is just happening.
That you come with this great material. You guys are in for a treat, guys. I tell you that.
No, lower the expectations, please. Come on. Okay, did y'all notice in the chat, we've got a nice cross section and some clarity. I love this. I did not clarify for you what I meant by fundraising. And that's part of what we're going to be doing together and through the course. I noticed one of the comments was clarified that there's grant writing or research and all the activities having to do with grants is an area of comfort, whereas directly asking for a contribution is uncomfortable. And I was assuming in some respects that that's the one you were answering. So I really appreciate the differentiation. Okay. When I talk about fundraising, I'm going to cover all of it, but when I pose this question, I'm really thinking of the part that is relationship based that would require one person to ask another person for a contribution. And what I'm seeing is a vast cross section. So I'm going to invite those of you who are extremely comfortable with that to support me and support the rest of the group in over the time we have together. Comments? Anyone? Clarification about your scores? All right. Good. All right. I'm hitting the top of the hour here, and Cassandra reminds me that people do need a break, a breather, and so on. So I'd like us to stay together as much as we can. So can we do a 5-minute, just a quick 5-minute break? I've got 10:02 on my clock. Let's come back at 10:07, and I'm going to dive into a deck with you, and we'll have a little more discussion, okay? Okay, we're starting to come back. Well, there you go. All right, we're starting to reassemble. I'll give everyone just a quick moment to come on back. All right, we're back. And what I'm going to do, folks, right now is I want to take us through some of the materials that some of them will look familiar and some will be brand new. But I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint here. I'll make sure that's working. And you should be able to see this. Yeah, anybody, any problem? Let me know if there's a problem with this. Otherwise, I think we're good to go. There we go. All right. I think I've kind of welcomed you already. Yeah, we're good with that. You feeling welcomed? Let's talk about what we hope to accomplish today specifically, but also through the course. I don't like reading stuff to folks, so if you need me to, I'm happy to. But basically, here's our agenda. And you might have seen some of this in the course material. I'll focus on a couple of things. I'm going to add a few things, and I will emphasize those items that you want to spend a little more time on. And I'll also invite you to add your own items at this point. Is there anything you'd like to do that's not described here or mentioned? The one I would like to add, and we'll probably do more of it when we meet again in 2 weeks, is discuss the ethical concerns in nonprofit generally and fundraising specifically. It is a fascinating topic, and it's one that we would not be doing justice to fundraising and nonprofit work if we didn't tackle some of the ethical issues, sometimes dilemmas. So I'll add that to our learning objectives. Anything on here that you need clarity about or anything you'd like to add? Brett, thank you for that. So I'll be happy to do more audio cues. For this part, let me just zip through this. So, fundraising within an organizational culture is one of our objectives. Strategies to support giving. We will spend a fair amount of time, I think. A point of emphasis would be on the board's role in supporting what's referred to here as a culture of philanthropy, which is even a broader term than fundraising. And then talk about some of the fundraising methodologies, which ones work, which ones are, maybe no longer viable, and some that are becoming more viable. And then talk about other revenue streams. Okay. We already did this. Discussion questions. So let's talk about an organizational culture for a little bit here. Talk about the values. And that's what the illustration here is, sharing different values that go into making an organizational culture. I'd like you all to help me with this. Think of your organization and what you would think of it, how you would define its organizational culture, and then pick one of the bubbles around the perimeter and describe how that's manifested in your organization. I'll give you one. I'll lob one up there that'll be pretty straightforward and easy, I think, for you to capture. At the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Valley, where we do out-of-school programming for young people, safety is one of our priorities, I'll call it. And you can imagine why. It's actually an extremely high priority, and one that we, it's the kind of thing that keeps us up at night thinking about. I can tell you some of our clubs, the ones that have been, where we've been able to invest in the physical structure. Sadly, but necessarily, we have things like bulletproof glass at the front and a separate secure entrance and a very rigorous process for checking in and checking out. So I'm just zeroing in on the safety value. Now, think of a different one and tell me how that is manifested in your organization. Just unmute and go. Go ahead.
I'll be happy to go.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Results as part of healthcare, and the movement towards value-based purchase and results and outcomes of what we do and how we do it has become more predominant part of the conversation.
Nice. Thank you, Corinne. Ashley, I see you've got a thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, caring at UMOM, our mission is to serve our clients with dignity and to restore their hope as a human being.
That's part of is that part of your mission statement, or it's one of the value statements? I think I've heard that before articulated.
Yeah.
Very nicely done.
One of our values.
Excellent.
Mine's pretty broad. I'll just touch on it quickly since I'm with a educational institution. Obviously, I'm going to pick learning. But our organizational cultures as a junior college, as opposed to a four-year college, we're leaning more towards a skills-based type culture as opposed to a theory that you might get, say, at a U of A or ASU. We're more about, giving people the hands-on training for, getting a certificate or getting a degree, as opposed to going to, ASU or U of A and getting a marketing degree or something like that and learning more theory-based type things.
Nice. Thank you, Lance.
I also, learning jumped out to me, not just for, it's very important for our staff, and we kind of have this cultural professional development from the CEO all the way down. That's very important that they receive the right training and kind of continuous learning, but also for our clients, that's kind of embedded in all the programs, from learning new life skills for the youth that we serve, helping parents develop skills. We provide community information. So there's kind of learning embedded in every single part of the organization.
Excellent. Brett, thank you. I see your hands up.
Yeah, for us, it's purpose. We are incredibly mission driven. That's where the team finds a lot of the value in their work and remains engaged.
These are all great. Keep them going. Anyone else?
I'll jump in. So I also will pick learning for a couple of reasons. Number one, both our school tuition organization and our foundation is all about funding children in their education or helping them. The STO works with just private schools, but we want to make sure those kids have those opportunities to learn. The foundation, we're working with public school, private school, preschool, everything to make sure low-income families have the tools or even the educational experiences that they need, that funds are necessary. So, but the other side of that is we also educate Arizona on what we do. So there's learning involved on just trying to make sure, most of my job is making sure all of Arizona understands that they can help kids, whether it's through their tax dollars or their charitable giving, whatever that looks like. So learning is a huge part from our perspective and for what I do versus what we're trying to accomplish in Arizona.
Nicely done, Kimberly. Kim, go ahead, Antonia.
So ours, I'm just selecting a few, but then highlighting one. So safety and caring, because we are serving adults every single day. I always like to say we're 24/7, 365 days of, a year, but I'm going to focus on enjoyment because a big part of what we do is helping to give our clients meaningful lives as well. So enjoyment is a big part of our culture, both for the staff and the clients. You know, and specifically, we like to have parties or enhance our art therapy program, different types of therapies, yoga, massage, dance, and then really let that kind of shift over to the culture within the organization for the staff, because the work that we do gets tough and challenging like everyone else. And so I think that's a big highlight for our organization.
This is great. You've all done something, whether you've realized it or not. You've made a connection of the culture to your case, right? So when we've talked, or we haven't talked about, but in the material online, you see the case for support being one of the centerpiece tools for your work in fundraising. And what you've all done is you've taken certain values that are part of your culture and you've articulated it in a way that can then be presented as something that is fundable. So it's the first time we're really talking about that, right? Good stuff. Any other thoughts before we move on? Still have a lot to do, so keep it going. Let's talk about philanthropy. I'm going to stop share for a moment here, actually for a few minutes. I'm going to invite anyone who'd like to be brave and bold enough. This is going to take a lot of guts. I'm trying to read Abel's face, and I can't tell if he's ready or not. This is amazing. You really do have that face, Abel. I'm looking at it, and I can't tell. Who's brave enough to jump in here and give me a fantastic definition of philanthropy? In fact, I'll even take a mediocre version of description of philanthropy. Take a shot. I guarantee you'll at least be partially right.
I would say philanthropy is the culture of giving.
Okay. Thank you, Ashley.
I can add a little more context to that. I'd say it's the culture of conscious giving.
Oh, I like it. All right. Someone else. Please don't Google the word philanthropy while we're doing something. Come on, I want one more shot. Who's got it? Dana, give me something.
Everything that people are saying is what I'm coming up because in my head, philanthropy is always like getting money to do like money to for the cause, I guess is where my head always goes to with philanthropy.
That's good. That's all right. All right. I'm glad we're pausing on this, and I'll tell you why. What I hope you'll all come away with was from this course, at least from today, is maybe a deeper understanding and appreciation for what philanthropy is intended to mean. Now, fortunately, I didn't hear anyone literally say that philanthropy is synonymous with fundraising. And I'm glad for that, because I think that's not the case. We'll talk about that here a little bit. But I want to approach it this way. One of the things I like to do is I like to understand the origin of words. You know, what do they mean? Where did they come from? And what insights can that give us to, you know, how we're using the words? The word philanthropy is actually a combination of two Greek words. And I'm not a student of the Greek language, but I do know enough about the roots here. The two root words are philos and anthropos. Anyone know what philos translates as from the Greek?
Wouldn't that be love of people?
Well, now you're jumping ahead of me.
Philos,
Brett,
love,
like it. Yeah.
anthros, people.
Yeah, so philos is the love component, and I think the Greeks have at least three words to define love. I'm not going to go into that right now, but it's basically, yeah, love and care for. Anthropos would be humanity. So literally, philanthropy is the love of humanity. How is that manifested is the next question. And I think now you can bring the concept of giving the culture, if you will, the act of fundraising, I think you can make the point that fundraising is a servant to philanthropy, and philanthropy is a much higher concept. Does that make sense? Anyone want to challenge that? Go ahead, bring it.
Hold on, John, say that again, please.
Yeah, my point being, or my thought on this is that fundraising is, a series of actions, activities. It's a discipline, and it is a servant to philanthropy, which is a concept that literally means the love of humanity. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to take the next, let's call it 10 minutes. And Cassandra, could you set up breakout rooms for us? We'll put maybe 4 or 5 people in a room. And what I'd like you to do is for the organizations where you serve, I'd like you to have a discussion of how philanthropy and fundraising are manifested in your organization. So what does it look like in your organization when you think about how philanthropy is alive, how it exists, and how fundraising is that servant to philanthropy? So it's, I'm not asking you to talk about the techniques and the ways you raise money. I'm asking you to talk about the concepts and how they exist in your organization. And I'm not going to give you too many more rules on the conversation. I want it to be a little freewheeling. What I will probably do, I'm going to try to visit the rooms. If you see me in the room, try to ignore me. I just want to pop in and hear how the conversation's going. So Cassandra, is that okay? Anybody need any further clarification on the exercise? And we'll just take 10 minutes on this one. Maybe a little less. So I have a feeling you're going to nail it real quickly, or at least get the concept down. We're all good to go? All righty. Off to your rooms, and we'll see you shortly. Pulling everyone back now, right, Cassandra?
Yeah, they should be coming back in just a few moments. There they are.
Yep, they are back. Yeah, they don't have a choice, right? You just close the room. Everybody's got to come back. All right. Well, welcome back to the main room. It's probably, I don't know the solution to this, but maybe I'll offer this. There's probably someone who is in the middle of the most profound thought of the day, and the room closed. So I want to allow whoever had that thought to finish their sentence. Go ahead. Anyone in the middle of somewhere, were you in a group where someone else was speaking and you want to hear the rest of what they had to say? Let's do it now. I don't want to miss that opportunity. There was a lot of good conversation going on. And Nellie, I know how hard you tried to bait me into your conversation. She couldn't ignore that I was there.
I couldn't because your teaching is so good. You changed my mind frame. Okay, I'm gonna get out of that. Wow.
No, I've been down this road before. You can't do that to me. It doesn't work. I typically don't do report outs when we come back, but what I would prefer to do is if there was something you heard, something that was said in your group that you thought really needs to be heard by the entire group, I want to invite that opportunity now, because there was a lot that just in my short travels around the rooms, I think there's some good content there. So would someone volunteer that for me?
In our groups, I think that we all had this consensus where it was really important that the organization that we're running or that we work for makes the connection to the cause and to how that affects the community and why it's important, and communicating that to the right people, and making sure that that they have the information, that have the data, they have the important stories of the people that we serve within the community, and translating that to a way that it makes sense so they're able to give back and why it matters.
Thank you. Good.
Well, I'm not going to take credit for this. This is something that our CEO always tells us when it comes to philanthropy and fundraising, what it should look like. in our organization, and it's a 3-step process. You do good work, you tell people about it, and then you ask for their support. And it's really as simple as that.
I like that. I might use that one, Matt. That's pretty good. Well, I would, yeah. Of course, I'm going to tell you about a whole nother process. You know, over you're going to say, "Wait a minute, it's not a conflict." But that's really helpful. Anyone else?
We had a ubiquitous, I guess, conclusion that's all about, you know, educating the donor in our philanthropic efforts, and letting them make kind of an educated decision in terms of where they want to kind of, you know, direct their funds, or if they want to participate in our program or whatever. But at the bottom line, it basically came down to education.
Help me with that a little bit. Education as in informing prospective donors, or is it in, you know, tell me more about that.
Informing prospective donors. Brett's in the government kind of funding thing for philanthropy. So basically, you know, if an organization is going to come to her, you kind of have to educate what your program's about. Like I said, for somebody to make an educated decision if they want to get involved with you or not. My role at PIMA, you raise money for different programs, everything from everything from aviation to, you know, nursing and healthcare, whatever. But when we bring donors in, you know, we're not really doing the ask thing. But as part of our philanthropic efforts, we have to show them, you know, what we offer. And if it's something that they're pulls their heartstrings or something to that effect, we let them make the decision. We don't do hard ask. That's just not our thing.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, and it'll become even more clear as we go through our conversation today. I think you're right. And I don't want to get on that tangent just yet, because there's a lot more to it. I want to lead up to it. Thanks for the platform. All right, I'm going to share screen again. There's quite a bit of content I don't want us to miss. And so let's tackle this. And since I really can't see all of you while I'm doing this, it's going to be, I'm going to be depending on you to slow me down, interrupt, throw something in the chat that someone else will pick up. So we just talked about, you know, the definition of philanthropy and how it interacts with fund development. I offered you my thought that fund development is a servant to philanthropy. Another way of looking at it is, as fundraising and philanthropy work together, they're supporting the nonprofit organization. They're driving together, if you will. Notice the ASU colors supporting this, this concept. So here again, I'll read the highlights here for those of you who might need a little more clarity. So your role, you know, roles of leaders, I'd say leaders more, you know, broadly, but particularly board members. And this is where I like to bring in the board component. For leaders to understand and promote what we call the culture of philanthropy. I'll define that even more clearly in a moment. To serve as ambassadors, to cultivate relationships, to identify and cultivate prospective donors and volunteers, and then to providing support for development or fundraising activities. Isolating some of it here as a responsibility of board members, that doesn't mean it's not the responsibility of staff. It means this is a particular way in which board members can plug in and help the organization. I like to use, Nellie, you'll appreciate this. I used this the other day. It's not illustrated here. I talk about AAA board members. Have any of you heard that before? So a AAA board member is an ambassador, an advocate, and an asker. And all of those ideas, I think, are captured in this slide. So a board member who is an ambassador is someone who is a representative of. They wear, it's almost as if they have the name tag on all the time that says the organization. An advocate is someone who can, you know, quote facts and tell the story, you know, share the story of why the organization exists and the good that it's doing. And an asker, maybe too obvious here, but an asker is one who's not only asking for money, but asking for all types of support. And again, all of that I hope is captured in this slide. Most of you probably know this. If you didn't, I really want you to come away from the course understanding this. When we're talking about philanthropic dollars, again, if this is familiar to you, I'm just going to reinforce it. If it's not, I really want to make a clear point about it. If you talk to the average person and say, you know, where do you think most philanthropy in the US comes from? More often than not, they're going to tell you corporations. Now, I have a theory. It's less than a theory. I have a thought about that. The thought being corporations, when they are philanthropic, tend to make a big deal about it. And that's why we hear about it. And that's why people perceive corporations to be many people perceive them to be the forefront or the leaders in philanthropy. This graphic, which is from the Giving USA report, tells you the exact opposite. What it tells you is that only 6% of all philanthropy is coming from corporations. And in the year that's measured here, 2022, it actually ticked up 1%. And I would suggest to you that that was a COVID response. It's not even worth discussing, really, in my opinion. But to go from 5 to 6% doesn't really change what the essence of what is philanthropy in the US. So, but where is the money coming from then? Well, 64% in 2022 came from individuals. And when we say individuals here, we're talking about folks writing checks, depositing cash, transferring securities, all the things you would typically imagine. And it's the common gifts, large and small, but it's individuals making those gifts, 64%. So what's the rest of it coming from? Well, 21% came from foundations. Well, hold on. There's several types of foundations. Yes, there are corporate foundations, and they represent a section of this. So that might be considered corporate philanthropy too. But you know what? There are private foundations, family foundations. And guess who's making the decisions there? Yes, individuals, right? Another type of foundation giving would be gifts to community foundations. You know where I'm going, right? Who's making those contributions to community foundations? Individuals. The next category, that 9%, is gifts through bequest. Bequests are gifts made upon death, like in a will or a trust. Guess who's made those gifts? Yeah, individuals. And as I like to say, the only difference between the bequest gifts and the other individual gifts is typically these are not renewable. I don't know, maybe Aaron, in one of your horror movies, maybe you've got a zombie who's making gifts after death. I'm not sure how that works. You'll have to help me with that one. But yeah, that's the ultimate gift, the final gift. So our focus, my point here, obviously, the focus should be on individual giving, not taking away from grants and not taking away from those activities. We'll get into why those matter as well, but primary philanthropy is from individuals. Where is the money going? Yes, go ahead, Matt. I see your hand.
John, do you have aren't there government contributions as well? Where does that sit in those categories?
Yeah, great question, Matt. That's not philanthropic. The previous illustration, let's see. Yeah, this is only philanthropic. And so contracts, fee-for-service grants, things like that. Yeah, those are all, they're not philanthropic. I do have another graphic that'll address that because, again, I don't want to get into it yet, but good point, good illustration. Yeah, not included here.
Got it.
So philanthropic giving, where does it go? This at least gives you categories or areas of funding. So you see what pops at the top, almost twice the next most is religion. And this is defined as houses of worship. We are not including in this category, say human service organizations that are part of a church. So say a St. Vincent de Paul or a Lutheran social service would not be included. This is strictly churches, synagogues, mosques, other houses of worship. That's all part of religion. Interesting point, I think. It actually shows here as it's gone up, but over the last 10 years, it's declined. The areas that are going up are typically going up because of generational changes in what matters. So a younger population, as they become more philanthropic, tend to support environment, animal rescue, and those sort of things, and international. Yeah, yeah. I wasn't asking for you to cheer your area, but go for it if you'd like. Again, good to know. I started talking about board support already. If you're not familiar with BoardSource, I'd encourage you to spend a little time on their website or even become a member of the BoardSource community. You'll have access to a lot of tools. Some of it's free already. You can probably just pull it down. BoardSource really is the expert on volunteer organizations and how boards should perform or should practice best or exercise best practices. So this is coming directly from BoardSource here. And it talks about, where's your board playing, how are they playing a role in fundraising? And specifically here is make sure you have the right board, that the board is part of planning, helps or participates with fundraising activities. Now, assuring availability of resources is a rather broad way of saying, they approve the budget, make sure that, there's enough money coming in to run the organization. And then here's the next one. I really love this. They are individual donors if they're doing their job well. And that helps set the tone for the culture of philanthropy in the organization. Does not include their corporate giving. And I get that a lot, especially in our organization. Boys and Girls Clubs actually has a disproportionate amount of corporate philanthropy. It's not a bad thing. It's an observation. So when we have board members, some of our board members, we don't let them do this, but they would maybe try to say, well, my company is giving X number of dollars, that counts toward my board commitment. And we were like, yeah, no. We want everybody individually. If you're on the board and you're part of that, you're part of leadership in that way, you should be making an individual contribution. And I'll make one other comment here because somebody's thinking it, so I'll ask the question for you. How much should a board member give? Someone give me your best answer to that. If someone asks you, okay, you're a fundraiser or you're a nonprofit professional, how much should a board member give?
That depends on a couple things, because it's an educational board. We can't take money. I mean, it's not legal. We can't directly ask them to pay to be on the board. That's not what we're allowed to do. Think to answer your question directly, because it's not necessarily always a monetary thing. Sometimes it's in kind. I mean, we have board members that, they're not necessarily wealthy people, but, they're very gifted or skilled in the ability to do accounting, so they can, look over our financials. So it depends.
Well, that was a non-answer, Lance. Thank you for that.
I'll follow that up if that's okay.
I should run for office.
Really? What, can I vote for you for something? I don't know. Go ahead, Ashley.
I was just gonna say that I think it does depend, but I do think they need to give something. So yes, we have doers, we have door knockers, we have different kinds of people, but even if it's relative to their salary, I think it is important to show when you're asking for other people's time or money that you're willing to also participate in the cause that you're asking them to.
Okay. So you didn't give me a dollar number, did you?
No, I don't
I'll
believe
give it
in
to
a
you.
strict give or get. I don't believe
Love
in
it.
it.
Okay. Nellie,
And
you
I'll
were
give it
at
to
my
you.
session at Ottawa
Right?
University. So go ahead. What did I tell you then? What
If
did you
I
think?
if I had to just throw out a number there, I would just say 10% of their, their first paycheck salary or whatever. But I'm just throwing numbers out there. John, what I do want to say is that it's interesting that you bring up that board members should contribute something. And you went right straight to the monetary side. Um, and through my readings and boards that I've attended and observed in the past, I've noticed that there's different kinds of board composition. There's a lot more board compositions that are made out of advisory of the making, or what I would call advisory boards. They just sit there, not just sit there, but they're from the community and they may have some skills here and there and they offer advice and oversee whatever, whatever board members' duties they do. And then they're the strong ones, the one that we love, the one that we want to actualize, or the one that are contributors, financial contributors to the organization. All of them are, fundraising kind of board members contributing to those activities. That is like the ultimate. So I guess my question is, should we be at a point asking those that are made up as advisory committees or board members to then become fundraisers? Or should we just leave it the way it is? I mean, what advice do you give?
That's a great direct question. I'm going to give you a direct answer. I ask everyone. I don't know a good reason not to ask off the top of my head. I mean, I think I want to stay direct here. I don't want to be too nebulous. We're talking about board members. Let's move the advisory board members to the side for just a moment, okay? Because that's a whole nother breed of cat and a whole nother discussion about how you structure your boards. I'm talking about boards that have a fiduciary duty to the organization, and that's why I quoted Board Source. If you are on a board, you are responsible for for a number of things, including assuring there are sufficient resources to do the work. One of the ways you do that is you take a leadership role in giving financially. I'm not dismissing volunteer commitment in any way. You should do that too. But the financial contribution is significant. I will now answer my own question. My question was, how much should a board member give? Lance, I was teasing you a little bit, but you're right. It does depend. But what does it depend on? It might depend on the size of the organization. What is it? What is normal? What is expected? It might depend on the ability of a board member to make a contribution. You might have someone who has significantly different means from others on the board. Why would you expect them all to give the same amount? Now, you might have a standard minimum. I mean, we have that at Boys and Girls Clubs, and that works for us. It works for us for a number of reasons, but you want everyone to at least give. Here's my answer. Now that you're waiting for me to actually drop the other shoe here, my answer is, as a rule of thumb, if someone is on a board, that board should be one of the top 2 or 3 philanthropic priorities while they are on the board. So as they think of their giving, as their financial contributions, that organization should be in one of the top 2 or 3 spots. We have to understand that folks have multiple priorities. They may have organizations, typically, as you saw earlier, it might be their house of worship would always be number 1, but we'd like at least the charity that they're serving on the board to be in one of those primary spots. So I'm not giving you a number, but I'm giving you a process, at least a rule of thumb, so to speak, to answer that question. Would that work for your organizations? Can you imagine that kind of being applicable to your places. Yeah. I got a couple of head nods. I got a couple of, we haven't had that conversation yet. I'll urge you to have that conversation. Anyone want to push back on that? I like a good debate.
Well, no, I was going to say, on our board recruitment form, we do have a standard amount on it in terms of this is how much we expect annually to be part of the board.
Chi-Chi, how'd you come up with that?
Well, our philanthropy director, I think, is just from her years of being in that position. She just kind of did some research and she plucked a number. But on the same recruitment form, we have different ways to give as well. So it's your time, but this is the standard amount to be part of the board. And I think she has on there, she had a different amount at some point and everybody pushed back. So now I think she has on there $750.
Yeah. You brought up an issue. I just want to make sure I address it. And that's this. Please, please, please don't, let me say it strongly and then I'll retreat if I have to. Don't accept someone saying, I give my time, therefore I shouldn't have to donate my money. Did anybody, are you comfortable with that? Come on. I guess I feel more strongly about it than I even want to admit. I mean, I think it's great. You should be donating your time. You should be donating your expertise, contributing your expertise. If you're serving on a board, you need to be all in. That's what I would say. And I think having board members who feel that way will encourage other board members to act that way.
Our experience is that type of a statement makes a great volunteer who's super valued, but it does not make a great board member.
Yeah, well said. And there is proportionality to this too. Okay, so let me just give you raw numbers. And if you're on the board of the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Valley, you're expected to give and or get $25,000 a year. I serve on another board, a much smaller organization with about 10%. It's at 10% of the operating budget, and our number is 2,000. So I say there is proportionality. Now, if you're a board member of Arizona State University, Cassandra, I don't know the number, but I gotta believe it's at least a six-figure number to serve on the board. You don't have to answer. You don't have to tell me, right? You're not sure either, and I don't know, but it's certainly not a small number for most of us. So there's proportionality. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, well, John, what are your thoughts on, we've lost board members over give and get. And we've also had board members that don't bat an eye at the give and get. I think the biggest questions we get in our conversations with bringing on board members is, if I can just give the whole amount, do I not have to go do the get? Or that happens more often than the opposite, where if I can get the money, do I not have to personally give it? That doesn't happen quite as often, but it's usually if I can just give the whole amount, do I not have to go get it? What are your thoughts on being flexible in the give and get?
Yeah, I'm not flexible. Well, look, I'm not stupid either. I mean, if I have to negotiate, I will. But the reality is, look, if board members are taking their responsibilities to heart and embracing their role, they should be doing both. There's a couple of reasons for that. You alluded to one of them, which is what kind of an example does it set for other board members? Another one is, how can you go out and ask for someone to do something that you yourself are not willing to do? Now that could apply to giving, and it could apply to volunteering.
Correct.
So go ahead.
So would that be kind of like it's going to be part of your mission rather than your hobby?
I like the way you said that, Dave. I really do. I've never used those words, but I like it. I like the feel of it. Remember, being on a board is a responsibility. When I say fiduciary duty, that should mean something. You've made it a priority. You have responsibility for it. You will talk about stewardship in a little bit, and what comes along with that. So you can't. It doesn't make sense to me to negotiate your responsibilities when everyone on that board is supposed to be sharing in them. That's so if I'm sounding a little strident about it, it's because I've seen what happens when you aren't. You get boards that are disengaged. You get people who are, resentful of the fact that someone's doing the work and someone else isn't. And again, it's not about having equal gifts. It's about, equal sacrifice, maybe. I don't expect, there's so much good chat going on, I can't keep up with it. So if someone wants to flag something that I missed, go for it. I'm glad we stopped on this. I'm glad we talked about this. Yeah.
How did you navigate or merging two boards together that maybe didn't have like the same expectation? Any challenges?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. No, that's a great question. So to Caitlin, you're talking about the when Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Phoenix merged with Boys and Girls Clubs of the East Valley. It's a great question, actually. I love it. The reason Caitlin's bringing it up is the give or get for one of the units was a different amount than the other. And, when you merge the organizations, you're also merging the boards. And that was part of a discussion during the merger. So what we did is for those individuals who were coming, in this case, it was the East Valley had a lower number. Their give or get was grandfathered in for those individuals so that we weren't we weren't changing the rules, if you will, in the middle of the game. We were saying, okay, you've been giving at this level. If that's what you can do, stick with it. And then as we've added new board members, we've set it at a higher level. That was actually an easier thing to negotiate than it even sounded like. But a fair question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't deal a lot with our board at Crossroads, but I'm very interested to learn about this process. But if you have a requirement and you say, hey, we want this amount for you to contribute, and they say no, I don't want to do it. I mean, I would think that would lead to them not being being voted off the board or something like that. And then is there any legal aftermath that they could sue the company? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear your question. I'm not sure. First of all, if it's a legal question, I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer it. So I want to be careful.
Well, board members aren't employees of the organization.
And there's no fiscal, brushing off legal credentials for a moment here. There shouldn't be any property loss because board members for nonprofits can't be compensated, which is where you would typically have that due process requirement. So I would have a really hard time seeing that cause of action.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
I think sometimes the hesitation is because the company's doing well, the board members you just don't need it. One and two, the give and take of the politics between. I saw Dana's comment between the CEO and the board. Maybe well, if they're hands off, they're less involved in the daily operations. Is something that might be more comfortable. So those two dynamics come into play for many of these things. The CEO manages the board could fire the CEO. And so I think there's certain unwritten agreements between the two parties to function or to have the organization functioning towards that right now.
And Karim, that's exactly why there's board source guidelines. So without going too far down this path, you made a really, really important point. The CEO reports to the board. I I'll take some exception to the term hands off when it comes to the board. It's not about hands off, it's about hands in the right place, maybe. When you think about what's the board's role, the board should not be managing any staff. In fact, I would say they don't really even manage the CEO. What they do is they manage or they monitor the performance of the organization. The only staff person that they should have accountability, or who should have accountability to them, is the CEO. And that's pretty straightforward board source and board best practice statement. So if you ask the question, who's responsible for fundraising at an organization? I could answer it's a shared responsibility. That doesn't mean that the board supervises the development director. The board participates in fundraising and ensuring the resources are there.
So
Good
John,
stuff. Go ahead, Chi-Chi. Yeah, you're still in the storeroom there.
So wait, I wanted to add that the way in my organization, the way we have pressured our board to kind of take action and make donations. Well, first, I was hired. So what we're doing now is sharing on our leadership team. Every single member of the leadership team actually gives back to the organization. And I also share a report of that. My CEO always matches my donation, and I make sure that I bring it up in the finance committee meetings all the time. So I'm pretty much putting them in a position of being uncomfortable all the time. And then I ask, when will we get your donation? I put them on the spot. I let them know how much the CEO has donated, how much myself and other members of the leadership team have donated. And then I ask for their donation. So usually they feel uncomfortable. They're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm like, okay, I see $100 coming in. Anything else? And that's how we get it. Just make them uncomfortable.
It's interesting. I'll make these comments, and then we do have to get back to the rest of the curriculum if we could. I thank you for that, Chi-Chi. I don't want to make donors feel uncomfortable. I just want to be clear about that. That's not my objective. In fact, I'm going to go a different direction. I want donors to feel absolutely great when they make a donation. I want them to feel like their money is being well spent, that it's appreciated, that it's having impact, that it gets a return on the investment. So that's the only thing I think you said that I might wonder about how I would work with that. But you made it really, what's that?
It's the board members.
Well, right. But you talked about how as staff members, you made your gift first, which I love that. I absolutely love that. It's evidence when you do that. So if you are on staff and other members of your staff team, and I encourage this highly, if the staff is contributing to you, say your annual fund, you have evidence that there is a culture of philanthropy in your institution. It means that everyone who's working there believes in it enough that they're willing to make a personal gift to support that important work. And I think you make a good point that if the staff is doing that, well, by golly, the board should be kind of, jumping in too. The board has an even higher responsibility in many respects. We don't need to pick nits on that one, but yeah, I mean, it's evidence of a strong culture of philanthropy, and I would do everything to care and feed that. But back to the point about board members contributing, it seems to me that's a necessary thing. And I'm not saying I see it everywhere. It's not necessarily the norm, but it is the norm for the organizations that have really figured out how to practice a good culture of philanthropy. Good conversation, folks. I do need to drive us back. I hate doing that because I think we could do more with this, but there's a lot of good stuff that we haven't gotten to yet. So I'm going to keep going. We had a really good description of process here, but I've reduced for you on this slide, and I'm going to keep it brief. You can look at the fundraising process. They're literally, if I were doing the entire academic exercise, I could outline 9 different steps. But I'm just going to narrow it down to the 4 here that you see. And hopefully they're mostly self-explanatory, but let me walk through them real quickly. identification of prospective donors. This is where you have what I would call the, either suspects or prospects. Who might be a donor to your organization? How are you finding them? That's covered in the identification process. Once you've identified folks who might be donors, you could think of it as now moving into the cultivation stage. And cultivation here, we're talking about using an agrarian definition of cultivation. It's preparing the soil, preparing for what you hope to grow out of this. So it's those activities that bring a prospective donor closer to your organization to where they will ultimately choose to make a financial contribution. Solicitation is, these are all showing at the same size in this graphic. Solicitation is the smallest, the tiniest, from a point of view of time taken, is the one that takes the least amount of time. It's that moment in time when you literally ask for the gift. That's it. Now, if you've done a really good job of cultivating, then the solicitation is going to be even faster, and in some cases doesn't even need to happen because you've done such a good job cultivating that the donor has already decided that they want to donate, and you've had conversations all the way to the point where they realize how much they want to give and when and to what specific program if you do that. And then the fourth part is stewardship. And stewardship simply means how do you care for the, stewardship literally is caring for something that you don't own, that isn't yours. And what is that in your organization? Well, it's the relationship with the donor, it's the actual gift and how you deploy it, everything that has to do with caring for something that is not personally yours. And stewardship is the responsibility of the whole organization, right? All right, what I'd like to do here, if we could, I think we need a short break. I'd like to keep it to 5 minutes. When we come back, Cassandra, I'm going to ask you to set up breakout groups. So while you're taking your 5-minute break, I would like you to prepare yourself to go into a breakout group where you're going to give examples to one another of activities that would be cultivation activities and activities that would be stewardship activities, as I've defined them. Before we break, any questions about cultivation and stewardship? Hearing none, let's go for a 5-minute break. Let's come back at 11:16. All right, welcome back, folks. Wait a moment or two here. We are getting to the home stretch, kind of, sort of. You have a few more folks coming in. There you go. Light it up. So the instructions for the breakout, again, are to give examples and share with one another about cultivation activities and stewardship activities. I'll predict for you right now, they will vary quite a bit because each of you is from a different type of organization. So what you can do to cultivate donors or to steward donors and their gifts, it will vary quite a bit, I think. And you'll see that in your conversations. But hopefully you'll be inspired by some of what you hear to borrow some of those ideas and use them in your shops. So Cassandra, can we scramble the group so that they're different than the last time? But the same numbers will probably be right. And let's just take, we're tight on time. Let's try to do it in 5 minutes this time, okay? So talk fast. Ready to go, whenever. All right, welcome back, everyone. All right, so you know what I'm going to ask here now is share with me something you heard. And you know what, I apologize, I did not welcome Gabby. Gabby, you joined us a little after we started. Just glad to have you here.
Thank you. I apologize. I had a last minute donor meeting that ran over. I'm so sorry, but I'm happy. I'm learning a lot. So if you don't mind, I can share what we discuss in the group as well. Matt was explaining a lot of very good opportunities to cultivate, and it made me realize as a new executive director that, the need to establish and develop those opportunities is crucial. So I think that what I reviewed so far, we use the newsletter, a yearly newsletter, to be kind of a catch-all for cultivate relationships, advice of where we're doing, and ask for action. And I don't think that it's the correct way. I will learn more ways. So thank you for.
Oh, Gabby, a couple of more follow-up, if you don't mind. So you mentioned the newsletter. Is it electronic, printed, both? What are you doing?
Both, but it's the same newsletter. The organization, it's been around 34 years. And the format of that newsletter, they've been using for the last 22 years. The same format, the same structure. So we have not evolved to utilize the new tools or technology to our advantage. So and separate the financial report and being able to show our impact. Our impact report should not be part of just a box in the newsletter. So that's what I'm learning. So.
And Gabby, are you in your car?
Yes, but I'm not driving. I'm parked.
Okay. I wanted to make sure you weren't driving, and also let you know it's not the most unusual spot that someone's coming to us from today. We have folks hiding in dark rooms, and okay with that.
I'm glad that I know that I'm not the only one.
For sure. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Tell me what else you discussed and what you got out of it. I don't know, Kim, we haven't heard from you in a while. What do you got?
Well, it's funny, in our group, we all are kind of in a position where some of the things that you're talking about are new to us. And so we don't have a whole lot Lance, of course, had some great things that they're doing over at Pima Community College. But for the rest of us, it was kind of like, we couldn't wait to hear what was being said, because with tax credits, again, I don't have to fundraise and I've been that director for 7 years. The foundation is new, so I'm really excited to learn these things, and we're looking into a lot of different ways of giving, but you've really opened up my eyes specifically to the individual donors, because we've been going after a lot of corporate funding, which is starting to come in, which is great, but because that's kind of low-hanging fruit for tax credits. I mean, we can have a lot of funding coming in at the corporate level because it's a credit. It's not a budget line item, really. It's your taxes. So I'm here to learn. I wish I could tell you some of the things that we're doing.
that actually helps a lot. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
So one of the things I wondered if it would have come up, and so I'll see if this resonates for you. When you think about the things you would do that are part of cultivation, introducing prospective donors to your organizations, think of those activities, and then you think about the way you care for those who've already given, those stewardship activities. Was there any overlap? Were there any things that you would do that would be part of both or either? You follow where I'm going? I mean, what would you be doing that's cultivation that could also be stewardship? And the reason I bring that up, in many cases, you can be engaging in those activities and accomplishing both things. You could have a mixed audience. I'll give you an easy example from my experience. Tours of a facility. If someone's not familiar with your organization and you want to introduce them, and you have the ability to do this, I know some of you don't because your organization doesn't have place to go, perhaps. But in the case of a Boys and Girls Club, it's a fantastic thing. We bring someone in at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the kids are bouncing off the walls and we've got our staff doing their great work. It's a great time to introduce someone to, here's what happens out of school. Let me show you how they're playing in the gym and doing their homework and doing art projects, etc. Could I also do that with someone who's already a donor who wants to see their gift at work? So that the two overlap. And I could even organize a tour, say on some afternoon, where I bring existing donors and prospective donors together. One example. Give me something else that might meet that. Newsletters do that too, by the way, Gabby. So that actually does it. Maybe the format you're using, you're not 100% with, but update. Maybe it's an e-newsletter or a any kind of Go ahead.
At Crossroads, we have a couple of things. Since COVID, we haven't picked up 100%, but we used to do things like in the fall, traditional things, a chili cook-off or sports events. And so we invite the community and they participate from everything from a bake sale to raffles to, and so it's an opportunity to showcase a facility, also get any kind of donor involved, perspective, and also welcome back other donors and see how things are going.
Yeah, so just things that build community could be part of cultivation as well as stewardship. So ironically, last night, we held a stewardship specific event, and the only folks who were invited to it were folks who are in our legacy. We call it the Heritage Club, or Heritage. It's a legacy society. And a legacy society, just to be really clear, are individuals. In some cases, it's couples, families, whatever. Individuals who have told us that they have included the Boys and Girls Club in their estate plan in some fashion. Now, before you ask all the other questions like, well, how do you know they did? We trust them. If you tell, most people don't lie about something like that. Why would they? Just so they could come to our reception? Of course not. But it was just for those folks. And we had about 40 people. And I can tell you, because I do know about the specifics of nearly all of their commitments, there's nothing less than 6 figures involved in their contribution. That was purely a stewardship event. And the stewardship event meant we're not asking them for money again. We're thanking them for what they already did, which was to express a commitment through their estate plan. And included in the evening was it was social. So there was food, there was drink, there was intermingling. Some folks knew one another, some folks didn't. And we had 2 of our youth members, one who's currently a member and one who's an alum, speak to the group about their experience as part of the club. One of my favorite things to do. And those donors, by the way, are also active annual contributors as well. So does that make sense? It should, I hope it does, yeah. Any other thoughts on cultivation and stewardship? Okay. I've been reminded by Cassandra that we have about 1 hour to go. And I really appreciate you guys have been wonderfully participative. I'm going to attempt to go through the rest of our agenda. I think we're going to do just fine with it. We'll talk a little bit about next week. We'll talk about some other, or I'll answer any questions you have about the rest of the flow of the course, because I guess this is just week 1, right? We got another week, 2 weeks, right? Okay, so we are here, and you guys tackled this one great. We'll talk about some fundraising, and this came up in an earlier question, I think. I forgot, was it Matt? Were you, one of you asked about government grants, where do they belong? I think it was
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. So what I'm offering you here is a simplified version. Next week, I'm going to blow your mind with a much more complicated version of funding sources for your nonprofit organization. And what you're looking at here again, it's a simplified version, but it's different revenue streams. The title here is funding sources, but think of it as where's money coming from? So start with me, if you will. We'll go around the wheel if as you're looking at it. We'll start at that individual donations and major gifts. And you could just stop at individual donations if you want. But those are the gifts we tend to think of, the 67% that was illustrated in the graphic earlier. That's what that is. It's philanthropic giving with no expectation of return typically. Next, we have bequests, which we've talked about, the gifts upon your demise or their demise. And then we talk about corporations. Next is foundations. And on these four, now we've covered the four that were addressed in the Giving USA report. So I'll call you out again, Matt. This is what you were bringing up as well. There's other money coming in, isn't there? And here we've only talked about four, and those are the philanthropic pieces. So what else could be coming in? Oddly enough, the next one is the one Matt called out for us, government grants and contracts. And most of you, if not, well, I don't know if most of you do, but it would seem to me that some of you are getting money from the government. Which government? Federal, state, does it matter? Boys and Girls Club gets government money. The largest portion of what we get, let me see, should I put you on the spot? I don't know. No, I won't do that to you. What do you think? Someone tell me, where do you think we get government funding from? Wild guess. Anyone?
Our taxes.
How so? I don't think so, but how so? Why do you say that?
Well, locally for Pima College, I mean, we don't get state funding, but we get, government funding or tax incentives and funding from our local taxation process in Pima County.
Oh, I got you. You do. Your organization does. I was actually challenging you to guess where Boys and Girls Club got it from. I'm sorry if I didn't ask the question properly.
DES, maybe?
No, individuals donate.
Yeah, that goes to individuals, right? I'll tell you, it's a free and reduced lunch. So that we get reimbursed for that. And if you deal with government reimbursement programs, they're very, very particular. You have to dot every I, cross every T, count every packet of ketchup. It's pretty crazy. But we do that because the population we serve qualifies, and sometimes that's the only meal our kids are, a full meal our kids are getting. It's pretty wild. So that is a revenue stream, and it helps us do our work. The next one on the wheel is interest from investments. Some organizations, and if you're fiscally healthy and sound, you'll have some money to invest. You're not, you've got cash on hand. You've got maybe even an endowment that you're depending on to help balance your budget. Well, that money is invested. So I'd say it's not just interest, it's all earnings from investments could qualify. That is a revenue stream. Some programs will have to take out loan, or will actually allow for loan payments and other investments. It's just a different form of investment return. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but you could have other types of loans that are coming to your organization in the form of revenue. Now, tax revenue is referenced here. And in Arizona, I think you could include tax credit. Well, I really don't know how to treat the tax credit here because it's, I don't even want to get into it right now. We'll bookmark it. I've already bookmarked it as a topic I want us to address. I just don't think now is the time. But can you think of organizations that get directly funded because of certain types of taxes? I need an example. There's a couple that I can think of. The one that jumps out. What have you got? Lance, maybe this is yours.
First things first.
Yeah, talk about that. That's Caitlin, yeah.
I mean, they get their funding from like the tobacco taxes, which then trickles down to all sorts of other programs for that birth to 5. So family resource centers, we have different programs through that.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Okay, allow me to be jaded for just a moment. So we've got early childhood or early childhood programs primarily, first things first, being funded through taxes on tobacco products. And part of that is in the hope that people will use tobacco products less. So ideally, people will stop using tobacco products. You guys is anybody with me on this? Thank you. Okay, I'm done. I'm off the horse. And then let's talk about membership dues and fees. Nonprofit organizations charging fees or membership dues? Anybody got an example of one of those?
We're producing training for the American Psychological Association, and the American Psychological Association has recommended that we give a nominal charge of $30 for 2 hours of continuing education credits, because then people actually show up.
Yeah, good example. There's one I'm really hoping someone's going to give.
So at the previous org that I worked at, we had membership dues and fees, and that was about 20% of our overall budget. And that would kind of just give the churches a vote in the work that we do. It was a grassroots community organizing organization.
Yeah, so you definitely it's a payment for membership or a program. It's not philanthropic. Good example. There's one that nobody's mentioned, and I thought for sure by now you would do it for me.
Is it?
We have some kind of I'm sorry.
Is it KO like KOA? But maybe they're not a nonprofit. I don't know.
Let's assume they're not, and we'll kick them to the curb for now. Go ahead. You're breaking my heart, everyone. You're killing me here.
Well, doesn't Boys and Girls Club take a membership fee?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Thank you, Karim. Yeah, I mean, there is a membership fee, and many of our families will negotiate some kind of scholarship for them. But it kind of goes along with the earlier comment about if you've got skin in the game, you value something more, and so we make sure that there is a fee. It doesn't pay for all of what we do. But there's plenty of other organizations that have membership dues requirements, and those membership dues are not philanthropic gifts. You can, if you're a member of an organization that happens to be a charity in some form, you might actually pay your membership fee, and then there'll be maybe another box where they say, "Would you like to make an additional contribution?" That would be a philanthropic gift, but the membership fee itself is not. Thank you. Thank you, Karim. You saved my day. I was going to cry if no one said it. So. Fees for goods and services. Hold on here. Wait a minute. You're telling me nonprofit organizations can charge for services or items that they sell?
Crossroads is required. We're required, although we provide treatment and it's Medicaid covered and we have a federal grant. We are required to check eligibility, income, and have a sliding fee scale for those that qualify to supplement, especially the grant funding. So
yeah, that's not well for your organization. It's very common. What about for some of the other folks here? Is it any examples you can give? That's a great one, Karim. Thank you.
We charge fees for surrendering an animal.
Surrendering.
So if you have an animal you can no longer take care of and you want to surrender it to us, we will charge a fee.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's another good example. The one that jumps out to me here would be gift shops at different arts organizations. So you go to the zoo or you go to the botanical garden, and on your way out, you have to go through the gift shop, and then they have books and plush animals and tchotchkes and all that stuff, and that's all part of this. Those are the ones that are easier to think about, I guess. There is an issue, I don't want to dwell on it, but if an organization depends too much on revenue from something that is not specifically mission related, they are subject to what's called UBIT, UBIT. It's unrelated business income tax. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. I just want you to be aware of it. There are organizations that they stop raising money, they focus their attention on providing goods and services and charging for them, and eventually they become the targets of the IRS. And they'll get charged the tax. They might even lose their nonprofit status if it goes too far. So this is a good little graphic, and it's in your materials. So if you want to look at it and just think about your organization and how many of these revenue streams are you actually accessing. It kind of brings up a question, and we're not going to do a breakout group on this. Occasionally we'll do that, but this is where you might ask yourself, in the long term, in the long run, think about those funding streams. How reliable are they? How sustainable is your long-term funding strategy? Hey guys, this became a really big deal for a lot of organizations around March of 2020. If you were an organization that primarily raised philanthropic dollars through special events, can you imagine? Maybe you don't have to imagine, maybe you were part of that. I'll never forget it. Boys and Girls Club had its major fundraising event, and we raise about $2 million net every year out of a $20 million budget. Our event was in February of 2020. There were several organizations that were scheduled for the end of March, and they did not have their events. Devastating. Now, we had some things come to the rescue, different kinds of funding, government and otherwise, but it definitely caused quite an upheaval. So over dependence on any single or handful of revenue streams can be dangerous. Food for thought for you. If you think about resource development, it's another term for fundraising. All of those activities that generate support, it's actually broader than fundraising. I misspoke there. It's all the things we just looked at on the wheel, all those revenue streams. And then you look at philanthropy, which we defined earlier as, the love of humanity. I did not offer you this definition, but I love this one, and some of you alluded to the concept. It's action-oriented for common good. Again, the love of humanity might even substitute there. But then fundraising are those activities that generate financial support, and it's an opportunity to engage donors to accomplish your mission. Think of the larger picture, nonprofits serving the community through donors. I like having graphics for folks who think differently. This is not my favorite, but I've had a few folks tell me this is a great way of kind of capturing what we just talked about. And again, it's in your materials if you want to spend a little more time just kind of digesting it. When I think about the donor universe, the opportunity to solicit support, this is a nice illustration. These concentric circles that essentially equate to the commitment, the willingness, if you will, for folks to support your work. Who's closest to your mission and has the biggest responsibility for success? It's those folks in the center of the circle. And in this illustration, we're talking about your board, you're talking about your leadership staff, management, and you're talking about your major donors. Right in the heart of that circle, in the center of it. So those folks should be the most committed, the most engaged, and in some ways the most generous. Just outside of that circle, you see your regular donors. If you're a membership organization, you see them. If you see clients, others that you serve, people are contributing their volunteer time, and your staff. Beyond that, you have folks who used to be, the used to be's. Could still be close to the heart of your work and supportive. Former participants, former donors, etc. Beyond that, you have folks who might have similar interests. Okay, what do I mean by that? Do you think donors to the Boys and Girls Club may also be donors to the YMCA? Let me give you, well, let's you come up with some other examples and maybe use your own organization. Think about your organization. Who else, what other organizations might they support? Similar interests, that's what we're looking for.
Well, right now, one of the things that the foundation is trying to do is support low-income families at public schools, charter schools, things like that. We've come to find out that pretty much every school district, and we're focusing on Tucson right now because that's where we are, has their own foundation. And so we've been in communication with these foundations. What do you need? How can we help you? And so we're working together, trying to get the low-income families at their schools whatever it is they need. And we're finding it incredibly valuable information and this relationship between ourselves and the foundations that specific school districts have.
Hey, that's a good one.
At Crossroads, we like to work with Shoebox Ministries and First Impressions and a series of other non-profits that help the same population from different angles. We donate to them, they donate to our members, and just all stay connected.
Good example, yeah. Others? No? Go ahead. Someone had it? Can't tell. How do you find those folks with similar interests? Here's my favorite example. Who's here? I've got, where are you? Humane Society. That's you, right, Matt? Yeah. I don't know if you guys do this, but I do know that there are some animal welfare organizations that will purchase data from grocery stores. What would they want?
They want to know who's buying dog food.
Precisely. Yeah. If you're a pet owner, you might be more, you are much more likely, I would say, to be interested in animal care. So, an example. Any other examples, you guys? I just wonder, how are you finding this? Is, if you're not doing it now, this would be an exercise for you to take back to your team. You know, where do you look for folks? The constituency circle that I just shared with you is one I'll often use when folks who are maybe unfamiliar or new to nonprofit will say, you know what, we should apply, or we should go get money from Bill Gates. And I'll say, well, that's a great idea. And why does he care about your organization? Why don't you help me with that one?
We do an open house, but once again, it's a community college. But long story short, we built this multi-million-dollar automotive facility, and we basically partnered up with a local dealer down here, a guy by the name of Jim Click. We got Jim to contribute $500,000 towards this thing, but in return, we're training his mechanics. So we've got a program set up for where we've got kids that come right out of high school. They go in this automotive program. They stay with us for 8 weeks. They go to work at the dealership for 8 weeks. They come back to us for 8 weeks and back to him for 8 weeks. And then when they're done, they automatically have a job. But not only do they have a job, they've got a certification for Ford specifically. So they go anywhere in the country and work for a Ford dealership.
Huh. That's a good way to find them, for sure. Yeah. I'm imagining that a lot of you, okay, I see Brett, what do you got there? 1225 interdisciplinary perfect. Can you talk about that one? Yeah.
So this is my primary program. It's the Prevention Practitioners Network. But a lot of philanthropic funders participate in our events because they're looking for programs to invest in. In this field, we've got over 1,000 community-based service providers and mental and behavioral health professionals kind of all at the table as part of that network. And then we've got research support as part of that network as well. So we created our own universe and it becomes self-replicating because anytime someone new enters the field, they're introduced to us. Whoever they find in the field will say, okay, you need to join the network, and they connect that new entrant into the field with my staff.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but is there a way, do you think, to bring them into your donor population?
Yeah, so historically we've been all federal government funded. So that's what we're looking at now is we've helped connect donors with other nonprofits. How do we transfer our credibility with donors and our relationships with donors into direct giving?
Wow, that was perfect. Thank you. I love the way you said that. Excellent. Anything else, folks, before? Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
We have at Crossroads, we have a PR firm, so we connect a lot with newscast stations, and with the pandemic right now of fentanyl and everything, it's a hot topic on the news, and I think it has been for a while. So when we get some media coverage on the news, it brings in a lot of different resources, whether it's referral sources or, like you said, donors. So I think that's been a big help too.
Nice. Okay, any others, folks? Can you see how that
we participate in a lot of different like coalitions and community meetings at kind of all different levels. So from kind of your entry level program staff to development staff, which again kind of builds those collaborations not only with other agencies, but a lot of times it can connect us to people that are already supporting similar work, and again helps just kind of get the word out about the different programs.
You guys are right on. What I'd like to do, now, the last slide I have, I'll pull it up for you, but I hope it's probably anticipating something you were going to ask me about anyway. Let's see. Yeah, talking about the project. Some of you may have already had questions about this. We can talk. Let's talk about this first, and then I've got a couple other closing remarks, and then we might even wrap up a little early here. One of the most important. I'm going to take this down so I can see again. One of the most important exercises you'll go through in this module will be an exercise in determining the right funding model for your organization. And that's what we've been talking about for the last 30 or 40 minutes. Thinking about that mix of philanthropic and other revenue. Okay? And the importance of this, and maybe I didn't stress it enough, the importance of it is a diversified revenue stream will go a long way to ensuring your ability to perform your mission. That's the assumption, right? So what I'd like you to do is working with the materials that are in your module, design, if you will, the ideal revenue stream, probably for your organization, but I want to give you some latitude here. If you'd rather do it for another organization, that's perfectly fine with me. You may have to do a little different kind of research to know what is happening now and what you'd like it to look like, okay? In a rare circumstance, I have someone who's got no organization to even look at. I don't think we have that issue here, but if you do, then I'd like you to work with go explore as best you can a living, breathing organization and apply the exercise to that entity. What was described in the chart there is all I'm really looking for. It's background. It's the whys. Why are you suggesting this is an approach? So please don't come up with. No one's going to do this, but it's like, we need to diversify our revenue stream, get more individual donors. So we're going to ask Warren Buffett for a gift. That told me you were sleepwalking through the 2 weeks. Questions about that? Oh, I know the deadline that is posted, I think, on the site says November 1st, which is a Wednesday. I'm comfortable waiting till Friday the 3rd, which will be a week after the class wraps up. So an extra couple of days there. If you're one of those people who waits till the last minute anyway, it really doesn't matter what date I gave you. So, and there were just a couple other things I want to talk about, but before we do that, anything else on the project and if you haven't looked at it yet, I understand. Any other questions about that? Nope. There was one topic that came up that I remember I said I would bookmark it, and that's tax credit here in Arizona. This is where I do get on the tiniest soapbox you'll ever see, but it elevates me just a little bit. So I'll pound it out here. I have no problem with the tax credit. If anyone walks away from this, from what I'm about to share here with, hey, John doesn't like the tax credit, then I didn't make my point. I love the fact that we have the opportunity for people to direct their taxes themselves using the tax. There's actually multiple tax credits. What are they? I think we have 6 now. And I don't remember all of them off the top, but there are at least that many. And I love that they exist. Here's what I worry about. And this will hopefully become more apparent as we spend a little more time together. A tax credit, unlike a typical tax donation, has a ceiling. There's only so much you can claim as a tax credit. That is very different than other philanthropic gifts. In fact, it's one of the things, again, it just bothers me a little bit that so many organizations push so hard on the tax credit and not nearly as much effort on outright gifts. Here's an ugly truth, okay? If someone has already designated their tax credit to the maximum amount to one organization, they can't give you any, you can't get any more from them. That's what I mean about a ceiling, right? And we have, we have an interesting phenomenon that I'm observing every year. I have a donor, several actually, who are giving 5 figures or more as a matter of course. Let's just use the number 10,000. They'll make a $10,000 gift early in the year. And then when they're about to file their taxes, they'll send me another gift that is the exact amount of whatever the tax credit amount is. They already qualified. You get that? You following me, folks? Is this making sense? I'm not sure I'm getting the. I'm not looking at Abel for clarity here, because I know he's going to give me the same look. But are the rest of you getting what I'm saying here? And Abel, you can tell me if you're getting it too. If they've already made that gift and then they're giving me another one I'm not going to turn the money down. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, did they even understand how the tax credit works? Push back on me. Do something here. Kim.
Well, I'm probably the best person to put, and it's not even necessarily a pushback, but we have many donors who do their tax credit, which is a completely different bucket of money than charitable giving. I mean, it is literally paying your state tax liability. Line 48 on your Arizona Form 140. You can get, let's say that says $2,000. There's actually 5 tax credits in Arizona and for individual taxpayers. And for a married couple filing jointly, that limit is about $5,000, a little over $5,000. For a business, that tax credit, which is only through private school tax credits, the only one available to businesses, there is no ceiling. I mean, it's their full liability. So it's all based on liability, where charitable giving is a deduction. It's something if you itemize, it's something, so it's completely different buckets of money. So I'm not sure, I guess I'm just want a little clarification is when you say people give you charitably and then they give you a tax credit for the same amount, it's not the same thing.
Right.
So
no, you're right.
Okay.
I'm thinking of the qualified charitable organizations specifically, which a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
the folks are on here. That's really the bucket I'm talking about.
Okay, all right. And there is the qualified charitable, and there's also for foster care, and there is a limit. You're absolutely right. There is a limit. It did go up a little bit this year, which I was glad to see. And there is that limit, but again, that is based just on their state tax liability, and it's still a different bucket, whereas one reduces your taxable income, whereas one pays your taxes. So they're different buckets. One's a budget line item, one is just a tax payment. So they're different. So it's great that people have that opportunity to have a say where their state taxes go and still give on top of that charitably.
Yeah. Lance, were you going to jump in on this one?
I wasn't. I've already, I'm a big proponent of the IBE. I donate to them, and, you know, I've got a kid that's in private school, but it's nice that I can kind of designate where my money goes. I saw Antonio's got Antonia. She's got a little daughter. So if I wanted to, you know, give her $500 for her daughter to go to Xavier or whatever up there in Phoenix, I could do it. I think it's up to a certain amount, but yeah, I think it's a great thing. The U of A in particular has got one particular person. It's an anonymous donor that donates 15 million bucks biannually. So he gives 15 million towards this like space program during a year, and he's been doing this for a decade. Then he gives another 15 million, you know, as kind of like areas of best need or something to that effect. So yeah, it's just kind of nice to be able to kind of designate where your money goes.
For sure. Again, I'm not anti-tax credit. I'm just amazed at how confused donors can be about it.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, I think some organizations that they're fixated on this is the way to raise money and cure their fiscal ills, if you will.
Yeah, and donors don't really want to learn the tax laws and all other stuff. We kind of break it down simply, like it's just a dollar for dollar donation when it comes to the IBE. I give $1, either I pay the dollar to the government or I give it to a friend's kid, right, essentially.
Which we were talking about education. That's why when I said a lot of my job, I literally travel the state of Arizona talking to people about how this works, because I do continuing education for CPAs on this program, because right. It is something, you're absolutely right, John. It is not understood, and people, it's they just don't get it. But by the same token, when they do, that's why I was talking about low-hanging fruit, sort of, especially for businesses, since there is no cap, at least with our program. Geico gives like $9 million a year to this program. I mean, it's an easy thing because they have that say, just like you're talking about, Lance. How often do we have control over anything these days but your taxes? So it is, obviously I'm an advocate for tax credits. Diving into the foundation world, though, I'm very excited to learn how that works, but I do know I'm going to be looking at these two businesses from a director's perspective very, very differently. I have to.
But that was the only bookmarked item that I wanted to cover today. So this is good. Let's wrap up this way. What I'd like you all to do now is please think of one takeaway, just one, from today's conversation, and we won't go around the horn necessarily, but I am going to keep track of who said stuff, so I make sure everybody gets a voice here. Think about one takeaway that was meaningful to you. It might have been an eye opener, a moment, and we'll just go around the horn, or I'll just invite you to unmute and shout it out.
Fundraising duties for the board. I need to look more into that.
Okay.
I think one thing I've noticed among all of us, that basically it comes down to kind of educating our donors or our philanthropic suppliers or whatever At the end of the day, it's just, you know, heightening awareness and getting education to your specific need.
Thank you.
The AAA for the board, I think I did read that and some of the material, and the ambassador, advocate, and asker to me, I think is very important, just to let your board know that you can fit into any one of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, that would be great. But I think all boards need to be at least one of those A's.
Thank you.
The thing I got out of it is that communication is key. In a lot of things we do, and even if it's minimal, that still is an impactful to the donors or possible donors. It's just keeping them up to date on what's going on and what our expectations and needs are, and how we can partner together. So to me, communication is a lot more required in this process than I thought it would be.
Thank you.
The steps through the donors, like with identifying and cultivating, and I like how you broke that down and explaining the overlap between stewardship and cultivation. So that helped kind of put it in black and white.
Thank you, Erin.
On the same token, for me would be to include the board members in the cultivation process. Usually it has been primarily a role for the executive director in our organization, but I think that the board would have a major impact on our finances.
For me, it was 2 things: the breakdown of where most of the donations are coming from. Because yeah, I think I had shared the same perspective, just assuming that it would be corporations. And then 2, the diagram of the responsibilities for fundraising and garnering more donors, also including the board, and I believe it was management, along with the executive director.
Great.
For me, it was the whole wheel of options. I tend to think in terms of government grants and philanthropy, but seeing the other range of options around the wheel was helpful as well.
Thank you, Brett.
Mine was also around like the overlap between cultivation and stewardship, and just how, because it's so natural, how can we be more intentional to provide some of those overlap, so we're not kind of overdoing things, that we're, you know, using them, you know, we're doing one thing that's kind of hitting on 2 different groups of people.
Super.
I think for me, is the difference between cultivation and stewardship, and really kind of put into perspective for me some of the activities we do at the Humane Society, and the fact that, you know, now I think I can answer those questions a little bit more directly, like, why are we doing this activity? Why are we having our staff come on Saturday to put on a pet training demonstration class to donors? Makes a lot more sense now.
Great. Appreciate that, Matt. Chi-Chi, you still in the warehouse there? Uh-oh, I think she got discovered.
Mine is the emphasis on cultivation and relationship building. That was the theme throughout. That's the way I took it.
For me, it was just interesting and refreshing to hear that there's so many different opinions about board giving across all kinds of different organizations.
Good. I'm glad that was helpful. You don't know when you start, you know, with a group like this, you're so diverse, which is really, I think, adding to the energy of the conversation. Anyone who hasn't chimed in yet that would like to? Good stuff. All right. Well, I think we've reached the end of a really good morning. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful, and I hope it's a good launch pad for the rest of the curriculum. You have my contact information. I check my ASU email regularly. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, I'm easy to get a hold of, especially with regard to your project, because I know that does create some angst for some folks. I do want you to reach out to me if you do have those questions. And I'll also offline, if you would, privately to me, if there's anything that you would recommend to make this session in particular more beneficial, that might help even for our next session, or since I tend to teach this course every a couple times a year, I try to add elements to it that might be useful to the next group. So you might be helping another cohort, and I welcome that feedback. It's all good. If you don't mind, I'll welcome that as well. So, Cassandra, do you want to close us out? Anything else we need to know or do?
No further updates from me, but I did go ahead and update the due date for our course project in Canvas. So that is now going to be due November 3rd. And other than that, we look forward to seeing everybody in class again on Friday, October 27th in a couple weeks here. So thank you and take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Sandra, can I ask one question after everyone leaves?
Oh yeah, let me pause our recording.